Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lords Discordant podcast. This is episode 3. I am Shane, the Lord of Death. We have with us Ross, the Lord of Fenris, and finally Simon, the Lord of Lying in Bed. How are you doing, Simon?
Yeah, not too bad. Sorry I couldn't join you last time, lads. I was dying of Nurgle's rot. Yeah, so it's good to be back.
Good to have you back. Ross, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm absolutely splendid, mate. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I know a couple of people said we had some audio issues last week. I think we're fixed. Hopefully we can hear Ross if he decides to talk.
Yes. Hello.
Good. There we go. So we should be okay. We should be back on form. So three of us back together again. I think, if I remember rightly, Ross, you have a topic to start us off with this week, please.
Yeah. It was a curious question. Is obviously I think in 9th we had some new factions. I believe it was World Eaters and Votan. And then in 10th we got Emperor's Children and technically Agents of the Imperium. Which I think that was the only two in 10th, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Well, I'm curious what the next army's going to be for 11th edition. And I wanted to see what your opinions were on the next faction for 11th edition.
Oh. I might need some thinking time on this. That's a really good question.
Well, luckily for you, I've got about 12 options.
Go for it then. Fire some options.
Well, do you want me to mention my top 3 for what I think actually is going to turn up? Or do you want me to just give you a random one?
Ooh. I'm going to choose the one that you think is the most exciting or has the most hobby potential.
Okay. In that case, Exodites.
Ooh.
Because there's 2, which would be a lot easier. I think it's been asked for more, and it's such an obvious one. But I think Exodites, for a completely different style of army, and all new range of models, and a whole different style to play, especially more Xenos races, I think Exodites would be really cool to see in 11th edition.
I also think that, not to toot my own horn or bring it back to stuff I've said before, but I also think that Exodites would give a great opportunity for the Age of Sigmar sculpting team to actually do some work on 40k and bring us some better models.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely. I've painted a few dragons from Sigmar, and they know how to do scales, and they know how to make the contrast paints just run over them perfectly.
Hey, Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, another point of Exodites is the problem is that some of these armies that are coming out, and especially these new models, they're so complex that most like new painters are going to be completely against getting them because they're too scared about how much they'd have to paint and what kind of styles they do. But if they actually do an Exodite army, I've never painted Eldar, luckily, but their whole selling point, I think Simon might have mentioned this before, the whole selling point with like the easy armies, like when you do 40k, you go, I'm going to do Space Marines because they're the easy, that's what they expect you to do for a beginner army.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of why they redid the Stormcast for Sigmar. But weirdly, I think that the Seraphon are the ones that they usually try and like sell as a beginner army because they're new contrast range. And if you've seen like the videos and like actually painted it yourself, painting scales and things like that is so much easier with so much more detail with their new contrast range.
I mean, you're both commission painters. What are your thoughts on that style of painting, especially with the contrast style of painting as well?
I mean, you don't want to ask me about contrast paints because my opinions on contrast paints are no, absolutely not. But that's because I am stuck in my ways and I'm a old school, acrylics, glazes, and I like to just sort of thin my paints down to the point where they are essentially a contrast paint, because I'm so stuck in my ways I refuse to use contrast. And I think that's more of a reflection on me as a human being rather than the paints themselves, because they are excellent filter paints, and I'm not going to be too proud to admit that it is just me being stubborn.
Whereas Ross, you sit on the other side of that fence.
Yeah, I'm the opposite now. The when contrast first came out, which I believe was lockdown time, like 2019, 2020, they were terrible. They were so bad when they first came out. Like I literally could not use them. And when they came out with a second range, like a second wave, that was when I found a YouTube channel. I'm not sure I'm allowed to shout out, but I'm going to shout out Warhipster.
Oh, cool.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so I started watching some videos by Warhipster, and he was showing you contrasts are weird. You need to learn how to use them. This is how to use them. And I went, oh my god, he painted that. He painted that model in like 10 minutes, and it looks immaculate. I've got to try this. And I started trying it, and I kept going. I'm looking at my desk right now. I just have like 50 contrast paints on my desk right now, and that is it. If I'm touching normal Citadel paints, something weird's happened, or I'm on like the last 90% of the model. But the majority of stuff now, I literally, like I said, 90% of it is just contrast paints. And to get back to the subject, painting, like I said, I painted dragons for commission.
Yeah.
Painted the Drake Riders and whatever the named big wizard one is. A Karazai, I think.
Yes, something like that.
And then there was the dark red dragon where they got the guy with the skull mask riding it. The character one. Again, I don't remember what his name was. But I painted those basically just contrast. And like not to toot my own horn, but just contrast paints are just gorgeous over scales.
Again, it's that level of detail, and it's how it works as well. So, and yeah, I definitely get that. So having that kind of army, I mean, to be fair, Tyranids already kind of fit that niche a little bit, but
yeah, but who has Tyranids? No one likes Tyranids.
That would be me, and can I just say, I know a lot of people swear by contrast paints on Tyranids. I have always found that it looks so wrong. So, like, every time I've painted Tyranids, I've done it the same way, where I do the base coat, and then I dry brush, like, 17 different layers of just slowly, accruing different shades, and then I'll just put a light shade over the top, which will be, like, a sort of basic shade paint, just so I can tie the layers in together, and that's literally how I paint them. Even now, I still don't use contrast paints on Tyranids, even though people keep telling me to do so, and I'm like, no, it's not my thing.
See,
I've got 2 points on that.
Go on.
And one of them is I've painted a Tyranids 2 and some basically the dead ones on my bases. And I've had a few people ask me about how to paint their Tyranids, and I've told them the whole contrast method of how to do Leviathan or Behemoth or anything like that. But I've seen Simon's Tyranids, and I've seen how he paints them, and I cannot paint anywhere close to that level. So you don't need contrast paints to paint these.
No,
because Simon can prove that you don't need them because his look immaculate.
And I suppose it depends how quickly you want to paint them as well, because I mean, a squad of 10 does take me about 4 hours, whereas I think if you paint them in contrast paint, you can probably get the same thing done in a quarter of the time. So it does depend on if you are just trying to, smash them out of the park and get models on the table. But that's never really been my thing. I've just always wanted to have like things that I'm like, I'm happy with that, because I know I will. No one else is going to look at them that closely, but I know I'm going to look at them and it's just going to sit there and bug me the entire time I'm playing.
And it would be nice for them to sit in that position as like an army that's easy enough to step into, because it's got that level of detail. It lends itself to the Citadel paint system, but also then is out there enough, and it's not just another bunch of robots or another bunch of vehicles. It fills that gap in between, but then it's not all just alien monsters as well. Yeah, and you know, and I sit either side of the. Well, I've started the contrast vote. So to be fair, I use it in some instances, but not all of them. So I kind of get where both of you are coming from. And weirdly, my painting isn't as good as either of yours. So obviously, picking a side is the better way to go. It seems. I'm not quite as good. But yeah, in terms of making it more accessible, and it'd be nice to have that level of Eldar accessible, because it takes me to like trying to paint Harlequins. I'm trying to paint that Harlequin scheme, that style of paint. I mean, we know one of our group of friends, Faris, is quite a heavy Eldar collector, and he's pretty good at painting. To be fair, I want to say I've seen him do Harlequin. I can't recall now.
He does. He has a Death Jester and he has a Solitaire, and I know for a fact he has them because I've seen them and literally been like, wow, like the detail he's put into those. He is a fantastic painter. It's just he paints because he likes painting stuff for himself, rather than obviously like me and Ross, we're trying to paint for other people. But honestly, some of his models are phenomenal. Like, he just puts so much work into some of the models he's done. I remember I saw his Jane Czar once, and it almost blew my mind. So,
I'm going to call him out now because I haven't seen his army for probably a year. Best part of a year. It's been a long, long time since I've seen his army. So, Faris, if you are listening, and if you're not, I'm going to be really upset. You're no longer my fellow DJ. If you are listening, then we need to get a game in because it's been a very long time. But yeah, in terms of that level of accessibility, I kind of fully agree with you, and I think that's where we need to be.
Yeah, well, the thing is, right? Okay, so we talked about the painting, and I'm assuming we've agreed that it's not going to be an army which will be too hard to paint with something that sort of start with what. Yeah, but with Eldar, it's such a strange system of how they're doing that. You have the Eldari, you've got the Drukhari, you had the Harlequins, and I think technically you had the Yonari.
Yeah.
But if you look at it now in 10th edition, same with Corsairs, instead of having all these different Eldar armies, you have the Eldari with 4 different styles to do it. It would be nice if the Exodites did come out in 11th, so you had an actual different army to play with the Eldari and have more Xenos races.
Yeah.
But like with Imperium Chaos, where you go in and there's like subcategories, sub-factions, it'd be nice to see in 11th that actually come back. So you do have an Eldari army, a Drukhari army, a Yonari army, Exodite army, and Harlequin army, and then sort of go from there. Because what I'd be worried about at the moment, especially what we saw with the new Corsairs box, is if the Exodites did come out as a kill team first, and then around the end of 11th, they dropped with like a Battle Force box, are they just going to be added to the Eldar, which would make even less sense than some of the other armies which have come out with them?
Yeah, and it's, we spoke about it previously, but it's the current, obviously, thing that's going on with 11th as well. If we have those separate armies, we've got that separation of detachments, how the game is going to be played and how the primaries work, etc., so on and so forth, is going to become part of that. So I think it'd be really important to have them as that separate army to, again, make them work, because they are going to work in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. I think if the Exodites do come into it, then I don't think you can just rope them into the craft worlds, because obviously, the Eldari, so the Asayani and the craft worlds, they are very much a different type of Eldar to the Exodites. Like, that's kind of the point, isn't it? Like, after the birth of Slaanesh, the idea is that the Drukhari go into the webway and become hedonites and horrible. The craft worlders basically just set off into the stars to try and hold on to like the empire, whereas the Exodites basically go to the paradise worlds because they realize they're untainted, which is why they use stuff like the dinosaurs and stuff like that, because they haven't got to rely on the excess of the Eldar. They just rely on base nature as that being their their starting point. Yeah.
And lore-wise, thematically, it's really, really cool. Yeah, I really like it. I think that'd be brilliant.
Yeah, I think a few people get a little bit upset with the thought of dinosaurs joining 40k, but I think it's cool. I think it's a different thing, and I think if you take 40k too real, then the whole game kind of just falls apart at that point.
Yeah.
Because none of it's realistic, to be completely honest. And the other thing is, like, if I said to you that they were bringing out lizard men for 40k, you'd be the first in line to buy that, wouldn't you? I would.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I don't care. I don't care if that makes no sense. I'm having lizard men with guns. Like, damn right I am.
The reptiles in the cold darkness of space. Yes, please.
Yeah,
How cool is that? How many of the planets are inhabitable across the galaxy would be perfect for reptiles, some kind of substance-breathing reptiles? Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Aren't they called the Zotes? Is that what the Zotes were?
I was about to say, yeah, the Zotes are kind of like that, aren't they? I remember when they
Like
first
Sentinels.
launched. When they first launched the Zotes, I remember they basically had them as being part of the Tyranid race, and then they very, very quickly departed from that in the lore because it made zero sense to have the Zotes be part of the Tyranid.
Well, you've got the Slith, is it, from the Court of the Archon?
Yes.
So again, there is like a small race of them. They're very minuscule in terms of lore, but again, why not?
How did we forget Huron Blackheart's new dog soldier?
Oh, his little bird, yeah. His little bird.
Yes, Cyber Croc or whatever his name is.
Robocroc.
Robocroc.
I love him. I
That's the
think
one.
he's cute.
Okay, so we're all saying Exodites would be cool to come back.
Exodites would be really cool. I'm going to dive in now because we've touched this, and I know you two hate it. I know we've discussed it previously, but I don't care. I'm going to dive in at this point and say my bit, which is we've mentioned the Slith from the Court of the Archon. We mentioned Zotes. I know Imperial agents aren't a playable faction. Fine. I would like to see a wrap up and a cluster of Xenos models in an Imperial agent style-esque way of doing things, like Slith, like Lamians. That's it. That's my Court of the Archon knowledge exhausted. I'm looking at my Jacaro on the shelf. All these little weird and wonderful and fantastic and magical Xenos races that they could just go a bit nuts in terms of modelling and stuff. And again, just throw weird bits out there. It'd just go mental. Will it happen? Probably not. But you know what? I think it'd be really cool.
I think as standalone units, it might be quite cool to have, as you say, that opportunity to just go a little bit nuts with the modelling and a little bit weird with, the sort of actual models you're introducing. But I think to try and unify it into an entire playable army might be a bit of a push because of the fact that you are essentially at that point just going, what if the Tower Auxiliaries were their own thing?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it'd be playable, and in terms of balance and stuff, it'd be silly. But yeah, as you said, the Tower Auxiliaries, having Vespid Stonewings in, and we've already got the Crew Auxiliary card. It's all a bit kind of weird. But yeah, just been having it to throw. But I'd like to see it more than the like the allied units that you currently have. Some of the stuff from was it Dark Fortress, Black Fortress, whatever it was.
Black
Fortress, yeah.
That'll do, yeah. And you've got like the Archivist that can join any army. That it's just a bit. I would like to see it more as units. I would like to see it as an army, but it's never going to happen. So units of Jacaro weaponsmiths or just weird and wonderful stuff, I think would just be really cool. But there are going to be times that you can't use that. No self-respecting Black Templar force is going to have a force of Vespid and Jacaro and Crud and Zotes and stuff like that, are they? So,
no.
Yeah. There's this. Well, I'm a bit torn on this because I think the idea is really cool because there's artwork from like the last 39 years all the way back to the start of Rogue Trader, where they've got like scratching and drawings and sketches of all these like different random Xenos stuff that we've never seen, and other stuff that we've heard about in the Horus Heresy book series, which obviously, you know, got wiped out probably. But like they could have been, I think again, Simon probably mentioned this last time. There's like there could be a few that just like survived and come back as like a squad or something. But man, I also really, really hate the Tau Auxiliary. So, I try not to think about it. But one cool thing you could do. Sorry, one cool thing that could happen is if because you've both obviously read the Eisenhorn books.
Yeah.
And other Inquisitor books, but like in there, I think I'm pretty sure Inquisitor teams have them, but like Rogue Trader teams definitely have them, where they have like random Xenos just in their crew. Because the models that come with the Rogue Traders and Inquisitions in this one, like the command squad kind of things that go with them, they don't have that. I don't think. I think they're all human. So it'd be cool to have like a unit at least in Imperial Agents that do have that.
I think there's an Inquisitor in the Dawn of Fire novels who's got I can't remember what species she is, but she's like this little sniper who's definitely not a human. She's like a sort of fish person, but
she's got 4 arms.
Yeah, she got 4 arms. Yeah, but
It's literally just happened in book 7 or book 8 when they meet the Votan for the first time. Spoilers.
Yeah, big spoilers on that one. It used to be Inquisitorial Retinues. That's how you used to get the Jakaro weaponsmith. So
that's what I was thinking of. That was one of the possessed demon.
The demon host for Order Hereticus as well.
That's it.
Or no, Order Mallet, sorry. You could take the demon host and stuff as a proxy of Cherubel. So yeah, I don't hate that. Actually, I really like that. That's cool.
Yeah, no, I like it.
Won't happen.
I mean, to give you a bit of hope. I mean, whilst I don't think it would be a functional way to introduce an army to 40k, it's almost begging to be introduced as something in Kill Team, because it's kind of the perfect arena for it, isn't it? You go, oh, we've got like this idea for like 7 models that are like quite cool sculpts, and you go, I wonder what they could be used in. Could they be used in this very small squad-based game? Yeah, perhaps. Yeah. But yeah,
where everything has a special role and everything does something unique.
Yeah.
No, I agree with that. I like that one. Have you got an army for us, Simon?
There's a couple which I really like the idea of, and I've alluded to this previously, that sort of harken from the days of the heresy. And as Ross said, I mean, it is one of those things where you have to wonder what's left of these races, because some of them, for a fact, have basically been flattened off the map. So you've got stuff like the Interrex, who obviously have, something you very much like, Shane, which is they have alien allies. So they're supposed to have had previous alliances with like the Eldar, which is why they know about Chaos before the Imperium. They also have the Kinnebrak, and they have some of the other alien races that are part of their society. But as Ross said, I mean, we're pretty much certain what happens to them because Horus flattens them.
Yeah.
But there are a couple of other ones which are mentioned in a couple of books. Like this one book which talks about the Ashen, or the Obsidians, which is on, I think, the planet's called 4716. Nice and memorable name. Which the Word Bearers sort of have a little fight with. And there's a man, I think his name is Sortagran, who's like one of the assault intercessor captains for the Word Bearers, and he's basically leading an assault on their planet. But they've got like this, they're like an offshoot of humanity that have developed their technology to such a point where most of their technology is like Tesla based, and they sort of modify their bodies in a way that's not the same as the Admech, where they just like replace a limb, but they've got like their entire lower half of their body is basically just a sort of tripod arc, which has got like sort of weird War of the World type tentacle type things that they used to basically move around quickly, and they're very hard to pin down, and they have an absolute time trying to deal with them until they work out that basically the only way to deal with them is to essentially beat them in melee, because at range they're basically impervious to damage. And I think that would be an interesting way to have a sort of, a shooting army be built. And I think they would make for quite a cool idea in terms of both the modelling side of things. So I think it would be quite interesting to have a sort of weird offshoot humanity one, but where you've got the scope to really explore in terms of the painting, but also just to introduce something that's a little bit different from the remainder of 40k. So I think it would be nice to just have that, like, something which basically says, oh, this is a shooting army. It's going to be very good against other shooting armies, which is normally where you get the bans. But, melee armies are probably going to tear it piece from piece. And I know you've kind of got that in the Tau, but I think it would be a nice addition, just something a little bit spicy and something different that harkens back to, the heresy days. And a lot of people, myself included, have read so much of the heresy novels that I think you get people invested in it because they'd be like, oh, it's those guys from that book. And they'd have the same level of enthusiasm I have for it.
And they've got a level of precedence as well, then. It's not just, we've pulled these guys from the middle of nowhere. I like that. I think that's quite really cool. What do you think, Ross?
Oh yeah, sorry, mate. I was just letting you go. Yeah, no, I really like the idea because I've always thought a really cool sort of concept is have a human army, like a human faction, which is not Imperium.
Yeah.
And technically, the closest we have is kind of Votan, but that's not really the hero there anymore. But no, when he started talking about it, I was like, the Interex came to my mind, which he did mention. And I haven't actually read that book. I'm a little bit funny in my Horus Heresy series. I kind of just jump in and out of random books. But I do know a bit about them, and yeah, they sound, from what I've heard and what I've seen, they actually do, like, that's a really cool, like, concept for now. I think, don't they have, like, centaur vehicles? Am I right?
Yes. So basically, when they first turn up, they're convinced that there are centaurs amongst them. But as it turns out, it's actually just a form of technology where they've got these ambulatory systems that are essentially mechanoid, like, sort of locomotion devices that are basically affixed to the bottom of them. So as it turns out, that there isn't any centaurs there, but they think there is because they see them from afar. But they're actually just these cool little, like, ways for them to get about. And I think that, again, is something that would be very cool if you could function it into a model. And I think a lot of my things do come massively down to the fact that I'm like, I want to paint something fun and new, rather than the gameplay end of it. But yeah, I think that would be cool. I just think it'd make for a neat little model,
Yeah, and there's like as you said, it's a new humanoid alien army. It kind of ticks all the different boxes of it's still human-y, which people like to paint because that's us. But then it's not human-y, so it's a bit different, so you get to enjoy that. And then there's different kinds of tech, and you can go a bit weird and wacky and wonderful with it.
Is human-y a word?
It's now.
I don't think so.
I was like, what the hell is human-y?
I believe the word is humanoid, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but having a human faction, which when people turn up and they go, oh, for the Emperor and stuff like that, and they go in, who? What are you on about?
On that topic, sorry to jump in very quickly. Was one of those the whole I was there the day Horus slew the Emperor? Is that one of those lot?
I mean, that's something that just comes up at the start of loads of Horus Heresy books. And lots of people say it. And it just seems to be this, like, sort of narrative device that's like a ongoing refrain throughout the heresy. But I'm not sure if it's ever tied specifically to a specific race. It is just people seem to say it as like a point of introduction for books.
I thought book 1 or book 2, there's the Emperor of a civilization, and Horus tries to bring them into compliance, and they're not having it, so he kills the Emperor. I might be right. It's been a very, very long time since I picked up the first couple of books.
It's quite possible.
The Interex had an Emperor.
There we
I
go.
believe they
That's
do,
a bit
yeah.
of homework for the next week.
Yeah, I should know this, considering I've literally just finished reading the 56 books of the original Heresy series. But, yeah, I mean, that was quite a few books ago now. That was, a good 40-odd books ago now, so...
I want to say it crops up within. I want to say it's before Flight of the Eisenstein. It's in one of the first couple of books. So,
So one of
general
the
shout
first
out,
three,
and
yeah.
I'll attempt to avoid doing this, but general shout out. If someone knows and wants to put it in the comments and save me going to the loft and pulling out boxes to find the books to read them, or I could use the internet, but I'm old and don't like doing that. I would appreciate it. That'd be wonderful. Thank you very much. Anyway, back on track. Ross, do you want to go for another army?
Well, speaking about being around when Horus slew the Emperor and other human factions,
Oh,
we also have the Lost and the Damned,
oh,
which is obviously a nice mix of a few things. So I could just yell Traitor Guard.
yeah, it's fun.
But-
That'll do.
Traitor Guard works, but the Lost and the Damned, because you're old. You remember the Lost and the Damned? Is it like 3rd edition?
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
Was it 3rd edition? And they had Traitor Guard. It was called Lost and the Damned.
I can't remember when the separate book was. 3rd edition sounds right. There was a lot of weird and wonderful books around then, anyway.
Oh, it was the same time the 13th Company of the Space Wolves came back with all Wolfen.
Yes, it would have been then. Would have been 3rd.
Yes, I managed to get Space Wolves into the conversation.
You did. Damn it. Oh, I owed
Right.
Simon a $5.
Sorry. It's literally, I'm going to talk about Space Wolves or Cog Forts for the next month, so get over it. But,
Don't pinch
yeah,
my
no,
idea.
so-
My next army suggestion is just an army of cogforts. Don't do that.
Don't do that. I'll have to leave. I cannot be here. But okay, so Traitor Guard would be awesome. The thing is, as well, is as we've seen over the last couple of years, if they want to bring out a new faction or a new sub-faction to join an army, like Red Corsairs and that sort of stuff, usually they bring out Kill Team first and see what the reaction is. Like when we got Krieg and everyone lost their mind, and then we got a Krieg army, things like that. We've already got Traitor Guard as a kill team, which also comes with 2 characters, which is the Commissar and the Ogrin bodyguard. And because I didn't just say Traitor Guard, I said the Lost and the Damned.
Yeah.
You've also got the Beastmen.
Oh, good point.
So there's 2 kill teams for that one army. Simon, what book did you say you got up to on the Horus Heresy so far?
I've just finished the mainline series. I'm going into Siege of Terror now.
Okay, so I'm not going to go too far into this, but the Beastmen are in Siege of Terror. Like,
Nice.
quite a lot around the first few books. So they're in there. And yeah, no, I reckon that'll be an awesome army. Like, but the question I have for you two, before I let you two have your opinions on the same army, is would you rather they turned up and they said, look guys, we've dropped Traitor Guard, they look nothing like the Astra Militarum because we've had to make them their own army, or would you like them to turn up and go, basically just buy Imperial Guard, but we've also got an upgrade sprue to put spikes on your Lehman Russes?
I'm 100% in the ballpark of the first, because I don't think that just chaosing up some Lehman Russes is going to have the same effect as, having, that entire idea of just, the mortal forces of chaos, not the transhuman forces of chaos. I think that would be its very own sort of theme, and it would have its own feeling, because you can kind of lean into that. You can lean into the entire, mortal worshippers of chaos, and the sort of boons and the, I suppose, gifts of the dark gods that would bestow upon them, and the access to resources they have through those otherworldly means. And I think that would be a much cooler basis for an army than just being like, here's a Lehman Russ, it's got some spikes on the turret.
What do you think, Shane?
I'm going to go the other way.
Oh.
And I have a word for it, and I'm going to do a little bit of disposition for this. As you've alluded to, I am a little bit old. And there was a series of books, you may not have heard of them, which was called Gaunt's Ghosts. And in that was the Blood Pact.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Having Astra Militarum and Imperial Guard turn traitor, and it being a process, it not being like, right guys, this is GTA. You're no longer in the Imperium. Head to the paint shop, get your Lehman Russell, your Chimera repainted, and then get the spikes on and back out again. So I like that kind of that twisting, and I think to have it to work in a wider Lost and Damned would be to have some Chaos Space Marines floating around inside an Imperial Guard army or a Traitor Guard army. Have maybe like 5, but they're essentially characters, or have like you can take a squad, but not allied. It would have to be its own thing. But essentially, it's Huron Blackheart with his Corsairs army leading a Imperial Guard, a Traitor Guard force. And they might have other stuff on the side. It brings to mind that kind of Thousand Suns with the Zangors.
Wait, correct.
Is
weird that you should mention Huron there, because if I'm not very much mistaken, the current battle force that Huron Blackheart was part of actually has a squad of 10 Traitor Guard models in it.
Yes, it does.
It's like I know things.
Yeah.
But
Have you actually seen that kit in person?
No.
It is a very good-looking kit. I've got half of it up here somewhere in a box. It is a good kit, because that is 10 Cadians with an upgrade sprue, but that upgrade sprue completely changes what they look like.
I think we do need more guard. Still Legion of Cool, fine. Or Krieg, sorry. Catachans, Cadians, I think we need some more variety in that. Just to name drop very quickly, didn't you versus Huron on the, I'm going to mention them again, the TTA 40k live stream a couple of weeks ago? I
did, and yes, that was a game, all right.
You bought a freshly painted Huron, so there we go. I knew you had another link to him somewhere. I couldn't think what it was.
It was fresh, brand new Huron Blackheart, straight out of the box, first game. Also, he was running with Abaddon, which I thought was a little bit strange, lore-wise. But that was a good game. You should go over there and go check it out at Tabletop Alliance 40k.
Oh, yeah, nice plug. That'll keep Jake and James happy, so that's good. Simon, do you want to go for another one?
Do I want to go for another one? I'm going to mention again a fairly obvious one, but I do think there's been a lot of groundwork put into this now at this point. And that's the Dark Mechanicum. Because a lot of the thing with the Dark Mechanicum is that it's not literally just them being like, oh yeah, we are the Admech, but we're evil. A lot of it is them basically focusing on that idea of forbidden knowledge that's been sort of prescribed by, the tenets of the machine god's faith. But they believe that it's a way of exalting the machine god because knowledge is sacred and therefore should be embraced in all of its forms, and it shouldn't be restricted. So a lot of the things with the Admech is that they obviously hate innovation and they hate all of this sort of forbidden knowledge and all these profane sciences. But it just unlocks like an entire world of just like random stuff that they can have discovered from other sources that allows them to sort of develop on the idea of having a sort of, high-tech army like the Admech, but without having that sort of rigid adherence to everything looking exactly the same and having the same, design philosophy. I think it gives you a lot of scope to sort of expand into other stuff. I mean, if you look at like the Heresy, for example, this, I believe the book is called Mechanicus, actually, which I think is the one that's based on Mars. And they have stuff like with the sort of, but when there's the sort of civil war on Mars, they then end up with something called the Cabin Machine, which is basically an AI, which they wholeheartedly put themselves behind because they're like, well, we're not beholden to, the restrictions of the Mechanicus. And I think it does just open you up to having, demon engines that are like, sanctioned and, they've had this proper work put into them. It also gives you options for stuff like the sort of weird Chaos Hulk type cyborgs, which I can't remember what they're called, but they're referenced a lot in the Heresy. And they're also really cool. And I think that it just gives you this entire, like, unexplored scope of that end of Chaos, where it's more focused around the entire, technological side of things, whereas Chaos tends to be around the body horror type of things. And I think it just gives you that scope to explore that a bit further.
I really like the thinking and the thought behind it. Yeah, it's a massive expansion to quite an well, for us again in the gaming groups that we play in, quite an underrepresented army.
Yeah.
So having that really significant dynamic twist on it and getting those creative juices flowing in terms of the lore, in terms of the hobby, in terms of hobbying, in terms of gaming, and being able to have that quite a dynamic shift as to how it's represented, how it works, how it plays, how it feels, and how it feels to fight against. Yeah, I think Dark Mech could be absolutely awesome.
Have you seen the Dark Mechanicum models in the Horus Heresy tabletop game?
I have not.
They are creepy.
But I remember I saw, I think it's called the Voltrax, which is like a type of, it's like a little flyer type thing. But I wasn't sure if it was Dark Mech or not. But I've not really looked at the 30k models for it. But I would be very interested to have a look at it just to see how that would,
Yeah,
relate.
Do you remember the drones from the Matrix?
Yes.
It's like a mix of drones and crabs, and they're really creepy. And they have official GW models.
That's pretty cool.
They are very, very creepy looking things. But the other thing as well is that everyone's expecting Dark Mechanicum to turn up at the end of 9th edition when they dropped off Vashtor.
That's true. Yes, we have got Vashtor and not much for him to do, isn't we?
Yeah, he came out and they went, oh, here comes Dark Mechanicum, here comes Perturabo and the Iron Warriors, and then nothing happened until very, very recently. But he's kind of turned up and they're like, this guy's a big deal, this guy's a really big deal. And you go, why? And they go, oh, no idea. So until the Dark Mechanicum turn up,
because he's in charge of someone. Who?
He's not their god, but he's basically the closest you're going to get to one for them.
Yeah.
And yeah, having again, this is what I was saying earlier about the Eldari, is that with the Imperium, you go to the Imperium, you've got the Mechanicums, and you've got the Mechanicus, and you've got the Guard, and you've got the Space Marines, you've got the Custodes, you've got the Knights, and all this stuff. And then you go to Chaos. Like, it's it might not be as fun if every single one of those had like a copy and paste version of Chaos sort of thing.
Yeah.
But certain armies which are so unique, and like Simon said, when these guys come out, if they come out, they're not going to be your Mechanicus models, but with spikes.
Yeah.
These guys split off like 10,000 years ago, and they went a very, very different train of thought. So, yeah, no, I'd love to see them. And again, they probably use all the demon engines from the Chaos Space Marines list.
Yeah.
So they've already got a few models on the go already.
Well, it's funny you should mention demons.
Oh, yeah. Because,
although it's not a new army as such, bear with, I think that's my pick for 11th. And we've danced around it a little bit, and you've set me up really quite nicely. I would love to pretend and edit this and say that was planned, but it wasn't. I think demons need re-representing in 40k. I mean, they need representing properly. But I think also, and other ideas of Dark Mechanicum, you've mentioned Perturaba coming back. We've got Iron Warriors, cool, grand, crack on. What we don't seem to have is a Custodes-esque force for Chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to struggle to get that because they've been made by the Emperor, rah. But I think there's a niche there for demons. And there's a niche there for where demons could potentially sit. Okay, you can have the stupid, crazy, powerful archdemons, and that's fine. Less of like the blobs of pink and blue horrors and hordes of bloodletters and stuff. I think there's potentially they could fulfill the same role as the sisters do in a Custodes army. But I think there is potentially a role there for a Custodes-style army made of demons. Hyper elite, hard as nails, horrible to deal with, but just really, really cool.
Do you have a name for these guys?
The
No.
demons? No, nothing. I'm the
I
ideas
thought you
man.
were
I'm not the
gonna
name man. I'm
say-
the ideas man.
I had this weird feeling Shane was literally just going to say, yes, Chaos Demons, because GW seem intent on not supporting Chaos Demons anymore, which I think is a very sad thing.
They're so...
Old.
Yeah, they are. But they're such a part of 40k. I mean, everything that we've talked about, I mean, even like, you look at all the armies. Oh, Necrons don't use the warp. Oh, Tau don't use the warp. Everyone else does. They're from the warp. They're so integral to the story and everything else. And it's just, as much as I hate fighting demons, they're just such a core part of 40k. The fact that they're no longer represented. Do I want to fight all 4 greater demons in a single 2,000-point game? No. I don't like it, and it's horrible. But you know what? I had the opportunity to. Didn't enjoy it, but I had the opportunity to. Fine. I don't think that should be possible, and the greater demons should be kind of on par with like a knight in terms of like the points and kind of how it fits into an army. But yeah, like I say, small squads of stuff. Even if you kind of went along that like really, really went tongue in cheek and put it along the Grey Knights route. So cool, okay. Well, you've got purifiers, we've got flamers as Zinch. You've got inceptors, we've got what are they called? The Sineshi horse cavalry things.
Taxi horses.
Is it the Fiends? Yeah, or is it Seekers? Or Seeker Chariots, whatever.
Oh no, it's Fiends. It's
Oh, are you referring to the demonettes that ride something, or are you referring to the big ones that are like sort of centaurs?
Well, I was thinking the demonettes that ride things, but that's all demonettes anyway, so...
In which case, Seekers.
What are they
Seekers
riding?
of Slanesh. They're riding something called a Seeker. The Seekers of Slanesh are the ones that are on... They're on the sort of weird anti to horseback, yeah.
But maybe this is why GW don't support demons anymore, because they very much say what they are. We are Seekers of Sinesh. What do you do? Well, we're Sinesh demonettes that ride Seekers. Next question. What about these guys with the flames? This is going to surprise you. These guys are flamers. Oh, cool. Okay. What about these guys covered in blood? Wow. Yeah.
What about these guys who spill blood for corn? Well, what's another word for that? Let blood? Yeah, what are they called?
Who's this guy who's taking all these skulls? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why they don't support them anymore. But yeah, I know they exist. They need a real shake-up. They need a real change. And it's cool. It's so cool fighting against demons. I would like to see them hyper elite. I'd like to see them same level as Custodes. It's balanceable, great. If not, fine. Sitting somewhere between. And you know what? Make it a little bit cooler for Grey Knights as well. Give them a comparable. A demon should be that kind of power that the Custodes who were fighting in the Webbe all that time hesitate almost. And I think thematically that would really work.
Yeah, just what we need. More Custodi armies.
Evil Custodes, though.
Oh, actually, yeah, no, it works. It works. I like that.
There you go. Cool. Right. Last couple of minutes of this. Does anyone get anything else they want to throw in?
One,
Honourable mentions. Go for it.
Chaos Votan.
You just want to chaosify stuff, don't you?
Well, okay, right. Okay, so get this, right? So Chaos Dwarves, Warhammer Fantasy, Old World.
Yeah.
That was a thing, wasn't it? That was an army. That was Forge World, I think it was. And as we've kind of mentioned in this episode, that you should have like chaos versions of other armies is kind of cool. It's kind of an easy, basic sort of idea, but it is cool, and they do exist in lore. And Age of Sigmar, they've only recently come back with their version with the something of Hashut.
Oh, yeah.
They really like really Okay.
Yeah, they've gone full proper Babylonian, haven't they? Yeah.
Yeah, they
And
really
the
like cows.
Helmsmith.
Is that Helmets of Hashut or something like that?
Yeah, Helmsmith of Hashut.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have big hats, like they should. Now, we need Chaos Votan, so we can get 40k Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah.
I have nothing else to put on this, but really cool hats on dwarves is cool. So that's basically the end of that. So that's the end of that. What's your next one?
I'm just going to quickly sling into this that
No.
obviously this means that the Chaos Votan may potentially have something similar to the Chaos Dwarf train,
Oh no, there it is.
which means that we have mentioned both dinosaurs and trains in this episode. We've mentioned dinosaurs, we've mentioned trains. Happy juices are flowing in the brain. I'll hand him back over to Simon because he was going to say something.
I was, and I'm going to have to sort of tiptoe around this because I don't want to present any unwanted spoilers. But there is an entire army that seems to be coming to light in light of the Abnett Inquisitor stories. Coming towards the end of the Beckwin books, which I know we're still waiting on the third one for.
Yeah.
But there is a character who comes into it, obviously called the King in Yellow, which is not a spoiler because we know about that. But it transpires that there is potential for a giant world-ending force that comes with the King in Yellow that isn't just chaos, it seems to be its very own thing. And I think that there is spec there to basically just go, maybe we can throw some new stuff in here because we don't know what this is yet. We don't know what this army's basis is. We don't know what their sort of ambitions and goals are, really. And it just gives you, like, basically a clear table to just go, yeah, sure, we can investigate some new stuff here, which I think would be awesome.
I agree on this because that was one of the last ones I recently put on my list. But I didn't know what to call them, so I just called them King in Yellow Army.
Yeah, well, you've got to be careful with it, haven't you, because of the fact that there are some very inherent spoilers, and it's a massive spoiler to what is essentially 9 of the most popular books in the entire 40k reading verse.
Because I can think of 2 units from those books, but I can't say anything about them because people will scream at me.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
But one of them is very, very cool, and Shane loves it. And the other one's really weird. But that's it. That's all I'll say.
This is... I'm going to have to reread and pick up. I don't think I ever picked up the second one in the theory. Well, right, okay. But also, first of all, bleep you. Secondly, I was there when Parai came out.
Please.
So... your face. But I do need to pick it up. I'm actually really annoyed because I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Mate,
oh,
you
I'll
need
tell
to
you
read
that.
those
Okay.
books. They are so good.
I'm gonna have to remember how to read, but yes, I think I need to do that. Oh
Well,
my!
I know we're probably going to close it up now, but I'm just going to mention one faction and say nothing about it because I don't think I have to. But just so we know that it was all out there. But I'm just going to quickly say Legion of the Damned.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say. No, I won't abbreviate further.
That would make me very happy.
What a beautiful place to leave off on.
Yeah.
I think that's the finest place we could. So yes, thank you all very much for listening. I hope this podcast has brought you as much joy listening to as it does us making these. Thank you very much for my comrades, friends. Thank you to Ross from Ragnarok Studios.
Toodaloo.
Thank you to Simon from Snib's Hammer.
Toodaloo, apparently.
I have been Shane from My Mini Res. And hey, listen, if you've liked what you've heard, if you could leave us a like, if you could leave us a comment, if you could interact with us in some sort of way, just to say, we like what you guys are doing, please do more of it. If you'd also like to say, we don't like what you're doing, please shut up. Please comment that so that we get more interaction in YouTube and Instagram and everything else. And if you're enjoying it, subscribe, share it to your friends. We've been the Lords Discordant, and we'll see you next week.